The girl woke up after 20 years of being frozen. During these 20 years, time seemed to have stopped. The girl's appearance had not changed at all. She staggered out of the laboratory. She walked all the way to the bus station, staggered onto the bus, pulled out 501. Then she reached out and wanted the driver to return the change. The driver told her that an adult ticket was 1,301. She felt extremely strange. Why did the ticket price increase so much overnight? It was clear that she did not know that 20 years had passed. The driver thought she had forgotten to bring money and did not chase her off the bus. When Miran returned home, but the house was deserted, she thought her parents had no money to pay the rent and had been kicked out. Miran took out her cell phone from 20 years ago, wanting to contact her family, but the phone was broken a long time ago. She took it to the phone store to have it repaired. The store employee told her the phone was completely unusable. It was outdated. She had no choice but to go to the police station. Miran told the police that she had just met her family yesterday, but after just one night, the family had moved away. Don't know where family has moved. The police asked the girl to present her documents. Miran poured out all the things in her bag with trembling hands, took out her ID card, and gave it to the police. The police were also surprised when saw. The police said that she was born in 1976 and was now 44 years old, but the girl in front of didn't look like she was 44 years old at all. Through her ID card, also looked up Miran's mother's phone number. Miran left a message for her mother. The mother on the other side heard the message left by her daughter, heard the voice of her daughter who had been missing for 20 years. Mother burst into tears. Father and the younger brother heard the commotion and immediately ran out. The whole family ran to the police station in excitement. The police told them Miran had gone to school. The three of them rushed to school again. Miran was sitting on the school chair, watching everyone holding smartphones, also using Bluetooth headsets to make calls, talking about a bunch of common words on the internet. Miran, not understanding, she felt a bit strange. Next, she witnessed a horrifying scene. The school banner above read, Hanguk School's 3rd semester 2019. Also, on everyone's shirt is the number 2019. Miran finally realized that she had been frozen for 20 years. Before she could calm down, a familiar voice came from afar. She raised her head to look. It turned out to be her adult younger brother. Even though 20 years had passed, she still recognized her younger brother. She and her younger brother burst into tears and hugged each other. Her younger brother carried her home. In the 20 years since Miran disappeared, her parents believed that their daughter would definitely return, so they immediately moved out and had already decorated Miran's room. Seeing that all the furniture was still there, Miran couldn't help but cry. Time had passed so long, the family has never forgotten her. But what happened in the end? Miran participated in a 24-hour freezing experiment. Why did she wake up 20 years later? Because she wanted to get 500,000 won. She participated in the 24-hour hibernation experiment. Originally, she would wake up after 24 hours, but the professor in charge of the experiment had an accident, so the 24-hour hibernation experiment became 20 years. Her name is Miran, a university student. Because her family was poor, she worked hard at many different part-time jobs to support her family's income. Suddenly one day, Dongchan, the director of a variety program at the television station, approached her, was willing to pay her 500,000 won to let her participate in the hibernation experiment. Miran thought that her mentally retarded brother needed money for surgery, so she immediately agreed to participate in the experiment. Dongchan, because in order to achieve the effectiveness and authenticity of the hibernation program, Professor suddenly woke up. He groggily walked to a wall, opened the freezer, took out a few vials of medicine, and mixed them together, then put them into the syringe. A series of operations on the running machine. The machine also stopped. Their freezer quickly heated up. The ice inside also melted quickly. For a while, the freezer opened automatically. The professor injected medicine into the two people's arms. After doing all this, he staggered a few steps and finally collapsed on the ground. The hearts of the two people also beat again. The blood vessels of the whole body seemed to be revived. Miran's hands moved, and then she regained her breath. Even though she had been in the freezer for 20 years, her appearance had not changed at all. She still looked like she was 24 years old. When Miran returned home, she remembered that she had wasted 20 years. No matter what, she couldn't accept it. She, angry, took letter of guarantee to the TV station. Raman, who recognized her, was very surprised. Miran directly glanced past him, went to see Dongchan and gave him a painful slap. She cried and said, "Give me back 20 years. You are responsible for my lost life." Everyone around looked at them curiously. Dongchan quickly took Miran to another place to talk. Miran asked Dongchan to explain. He quickly said to her. He also said that he was also very angry because he had just woken up. The two of them were talking and crying. After calming down, she took out the guarantee paper written for her by the president president of the television station 20 years ago. When they finished reading, Mi-ran said she asked the television station for compensation, then took out the calculator. 24 hours was 500,000 won. Every hour was 21. A year was 8,700 won. After calculating they got 70 billion. The three of them were shocked. Even if sold, the TV station couldn't get that number. The chairman told Mi-ran that this amount of money could be gradually compensated and the problem solved. Mi-ran decided to return to school to finish the program that she had not completed. She told the teacher that she wanted to retake the course. The teacher asked her to state her major and class. Majoring in Chinese literature in '96. The teacher, hearing that, was extremely shocked. After going back to school, Mi-ran went to class in 20th century fashion, successfully attracting a boy. And this boy even gave her a drink. A professor entered the classroom. When he saw Mi-ran, he was so scared that his legs were weak because he was Mi-ran's ex-boyfriend, the man who betrayed her 20 years ago, the man who miraculously revived after 20 years of hibernation. He staggered on the road, feeling dizzy. Finally unable to hold on, he collapsed to the ground. Passers-by took him to the hospital. The doctor immediately examined him. His pulse was normal, and his breathing was normal, but the body temperature was 31.5 degrees. Normal human body temperature is about 36.5 degrees. The doctor said his body temperature was too abnormal, but when Dong Chan woke up, he screamed, wanted to leave, saying he still had filming duties, but his weak body did not allow him to leave. The doctors also took out all kinds of thermometers to measure, but his body temperature was still 31.5 degrees. While the doctor was surprised, Dong Chan woke up. He had difficulty telling the doctor to contact his deputy director. The doctor asked him what the phone number was. Dong Chan continued saying the phone number and the deputy director's name. After saying that, he immediately fainted. On the other side, Deputy Director Hyun-gi received a call from the hospital. Hearing Dong Chan's name, his hands kept shaking. After hanging up the phone, Hyun-gi quickly contacted the president. The two of them rushed to the hospital. At this time, Dong Chan's family also heard the news and went to the hospital. Seeing that Dong Chan was still young, the whole family was extremely shocked. He looked at the face was both familiar and strange right in front of him. Dong Chan was a bit confused. He fainted after saying a sentence. Waiting until he regained consciousness, he looked at his elderly mother next to him. He asked his mother why she had aged so much after just one night. His father became younger. When he saw an aunt calling him brother, Dong Chan was shocked. What is this? He didn't have time to react. Then there was an old man who called him senior and said that I was Hyun-gi. Dong Chan was completely confused. What was going on? He rushed out of the hospital room into the hospital lobby. He saw the year 2019. Although it was hard to believe, he finally realized that he had been in hibernation for 20 years and finally had to accept the truth. Remembering Mi-ran, who participated in the experiment with him, so he told Hyun-gi to find Mi-ran's home address, but her house was now empty. Dong Chan returned home with his family. After 20 years, he disappeared. A big change happened in the house. The younger brother and younger sister have both spent all their money. The family opened a grill shop to make a living. The younger brother is also married and has a pretty daughter. The father has also passed away a few years ago. The family is very curious about the years Dong Chan was missing, but didn't ask him. Dong Chan returned home safely and was very satisfied. Dong Chan came to find out why he woke up after 20 years. He went to the lab before. Here he met the professor's subordinate. So the subordinate immediately took him to meet the professor and also said that the professor had lost his memory. He used all his last effort to wake them up. And why did he hide their information? It was because that year, someone deliberately caused the professor's car to explode. If they knew that the professor was still alive, they would definitely come and kill him. All things would only have to wait until the professor regained his memory to know. Today is Dong Chan's first day back to work in television station. As soon as he sat down, a junior ran over to teach him how to work. Dong Chan was a little uncomfortable. What was even more extreme was that this person also grabbed his chin to comment on Dong Chan's appearance. Hyun-gi walked in. He had a lot of respect for Dong Chan. Dong Chan blamed the other for the way he taught his subordinates. Hyun-gi quickly apologized. The person next to him was immediately surprised. In her heart, she wondered who this person was after all, so that Hyun-gi listened to him like that. Actually, 20 years ago, Dong Chan was a famous producer who won many awards. At that time, Hyun-gi was still just an apprentice following him. Now Dong Chan is back because he was the host of the conference. He proposed many ideas about game shows, for example, combining documentaries and game shows to challenge the stars to survive, but his colleagues sitting below all looked down on him. Dong Chan hasn't been in contact with society for 20 years. These ideas of his have long been outdated because in order to quickly adapt to the times, he asked Hyun-gi to go watch game shows with him and learn how to use computers. The next day he went to the police station to investigate the disappearance that year. Unexpectedly, he discovered that the people around him, including his girlfriend, none of them mentioned that they had participated in the experiment, hibernating. Dong Chan felt very disappointed. In order not to involve the television station, he actually hid the truth about participating in the experiment. He disappeared disappeared like that for 20 years. He went to find Hyunji to question, why didn't you tell the police about the hibernation experiment? He also grabbed the other person's collar and said, why was you so selfish? He came to find his girlfriend of 20 years ago is Ha-young, asked the other person that after he disappeared, she didn't go looking for him and pretended nothing had happened. Ha-young also felt resentful. These 20 years, she has always lived in guilt. Even now, she's still not married yet, still waiting for Dong-chan. But Dong-chan felt there was no way to forgive the other person because she was the person he loved and was closest to. Ha-young cried and said what she had to do to be forgiven by him. Dong-chan didn't say anything but turned around and left, remembering all the sweetness between the two of them in the past. Dong-chan didn't know how to face Ha-young. On the other hand, Mi-ran, who was hibernating with Dong-chan that year, contacted her old friend again, asking them to meet. The three of them hugged each other excitedly and jumped up and down. The two people who looked at Mi-ran's young face were suspicious that she had taken some elixir. Mi-ran was about to graduate. She brought her resume to apply for a job, but the interviewer saw that she was 44 years old and had no work experience and rejected her. The more Mi-ran thought about it, the angrier she became. Actually, she was only 24 years old. The remaining 20 years were in the freezer. She had no choice but to find Dong-chan, say that she wanted to work in radio and television, even stating that she wanted to join the game show team. Dong-chan explained that she was not suitable for the job in the television station, but Mi-ran still firmly said that she could definitely do well. He felt that she was very confident, so he immediately agreed, and at the same time he also told Mi-ran the bad news. From the professor's place, he learned that the body temperature of a frozen person is 31.5 degrees. The limit is 33 degrees. If it exceeds 33 degrees level would be life-threatening. Even though this woman was 44 years old, she was still young and beautiful. Her smile attracted Dong-chan. Dong-chan walked over and gave Mi-ran a cell phone to thank him. Mi-ran for deciding to introduce her best friend to him. Dong-chan looked at the two charming women in front of him. Seeing how enthusiastic they were, he quickly found a reason to leave. Mi-ran was holding the new phone that Dong-chan gave it to her and immediately sent him a cute emoticon. Dong-chan looked at the emoticon and revealed a smile. When he got to the company, he went to find Mi-ran. She excitedly told him that the functions of the new phone were great. Accidentally, all four eyes looked at each other. At this moment, it seemed like they could hear the sound of the heart beating faster and faster. In the evening after work, they went to the garage together. Suddenly, a man pointed a knife at Dong-chan's back. He immediately raised his hands. The two people were locked in the trunk of the car. The kidnappers thought that the two people would definitely faint because of the cold temperature in the trunk, but didn't know that Dong-chan and Mi-ran were chatting leisurely. As for the fact that the two of them had been hibernating for 20 years, this was just a small matter. When they came to a deserted small road, the kidnappers stopped the car, wanting to see if the two of them were still alive. When entered, they saw the two people were still alive. The two kidnappers immediately asked about the whereabouts of Professor Wang, who was responsible for the hibernation experiment. Dong-chan directly said they didn't know. The kidnapper, trembling from the cold, kept asking. The two of them directly kicked him. His phone fell out. Mi-ran quickly picked it up. Dong-chan also stepped forward to help. Tut. The kidnapper was not the average guy either. The two struggled for a long time. Dong-chan grabbed the kidnapper's hair and pulled hard. Mi-ran took the opportunity to kick the other person directly in a sensitive place. He rolled on the floor in pain. The two of them joined forces to kick the car door, ran out, and didn't forget to close the door. Dong-chan said to another kidnapper. He called the police, threatened a little, but this Hui drove away in a hurry. It must be said that if the two of them could restrain the kidnapper, why didn't they force him to take them back, this time only walk home? Don't know how long the two of them had been walking. Mi-ran's body temperature was getting higher and higher. Dong-chan quickly carried her up and ran. Just when they thought they was about to faint, finally seeing a car, Dong-chan used his last effort to stop the car, took Mi-ran to the hospital. Mi-ran was out of danger after taking fever-reducing medicine. Dong-chan also quickly poured cold water on his body to cool down. Seeing that Mi-ran was fine, he felt more secure. Dong-chan went to find Professor Yu Ki-beom, asking the other person if there was any solution to this problem. Professor Yu said that there was only one way to restore their body temperature to normal, but only Professor Huang, who suffers from amnesia, knows how to restore body temperature, but it is impossible to predict when Professor Huang will regain his memory. He can only think of other ways to avoid this happening again. Dong-chan bought 2 monitoring machines to monitor body temperature at any time, and also prepared fever-reducing medicine. He also told her to bring it along, in case bad cases happen. That day Mi-ran just stepping out of the classroom. A professor blocked her path. As soon as open mouth he said Mi-ran's name. He was her ex-boyfriend who betrayed her 20 years ago. Now wanted, come back. If it were you, would you agree? He brazenly asked Mi-ran to come back to him. He also said that Mi-ran participated in the hibernation experiment because of him. Mi-ran also argued, said directly, let's not see each other again from now on. Gong-sim pinched Mi-ran's cheek and said she looked very cute when she was angry. He also said he wanted to rekindle the passionate love with her like that year. Mi-ran thought this guy was crazy. She said he was already married. Gong-sim immediately said that for her sake, he would immediately divorce. After saying that, he hugged Mi-ran tightly. This time, Mi-ran couldn't stand it anymore, then grabbed her bag and beat him, so both of them were directly escorted to the police station. Gong-sim also shouted not to punish Mi-ran. The police asked what the relationship between the two of them was. Gong-sim boldly said that the two of them would be in a love relationship in the future. Mi-ran directly told the police that no matter what, I will also be punished, then I will beat him again. The police quickly stopped. This is the police station. At this time, Dong-chan hurriedly came here. He told Mi-ran that no matter how angry she was, she should not attack the professor. When he learned that the person who was beaten was Mi-ran's ex-boyfriend, he immediately changed his attitude. Dong-chan said that she was right to hit him, how good it would be to beat him directly to disability. The more he talked, the angrier Dong-chan became. He went directly to Gong-sim to warn him not to harass Mi-ran. Otherwise, I would let you know. Gong-mu didn't accept, still showing an arrogant appearance. The two rushed into a fight. Everyone joined forces to pull the two out. Dong-chan directly ignored Gong-sim. He held Mi-ran's hand and left the police station. Gong-sim left with a bruised face. The next day, Dong-chan and Mi-ran went to look for a new filming location. The two stopped to take a lot of photos. Mi-ran suggested going inside to take a look. Perhaps there would be a better shooting location. The weather is getting hotter. Dong-chan quickly pulled Mi-ran, telling her to definitely go out. The two of them turned back, but after a while they still couldn't see the car. Their body temperature is getting higher and higher. Dong-chan also understood that they were lost. They walked and pulled each other. Their body temperature was about to reach 33 degrees. The clock kept making alarm sounds. Dong-chan quickly helped Mi-ran sit down, prepared to take out fever-reducing medicine to cool down. But when searched Mi-ran's bag, he still couldn't find the fever-reducing medicine. Sei forgot to bring it with her. Mi-ran's breathing became increasingly rapid, and she immediately fainted. Dong-chan's body temperature also gradually increased. There was only one dose of fever-reducing medicine. Without hesitation, he injected Mi-ran. Her temperature was gradually decreasing, but his body temperature had already reached the critical level. Dong-chan fainted and fell to the ground. After a while, Mi-ran woke up. Seeing Dong-chan fainting, she worriedly called his name, but he didn't react. At that moment, it was raining. Perhaps God also had mercy on Dong-chan's fate. Raindrops were falling on his body. His body temperature dropped rapidly. After a while, he also woke up. Mi-ran saw him regain consciousness. She couldn't help but kiss Dong-chan. This man was gently flipping her hair. It was 20 years ago that Professor Huang was in charge of the hibernation experiment, but has now lost his memory. At that time, his car was damaged by someone and suddenly exploded. Although the professor was lucky to survive, he lost his memory. To help the professor recover his memory as soon as possible, Professor Yu gave him Bu. He went to a lot of rehabilitation exercises, then put his hands in ice blindfolded and took him to the laboratory. But Professor Huang still couldn't remember anything. On the other hand, Lee Seok-du, the biggest president in Korea, also learned that Professor Huang was not dead. He ordered his people to investigate the case secretly. What was surprising was that Chairman Lee was identical to the man in the freezer. To protecting Professor Huang, Dong-chan and Professor Yu discussed and decided to take the professor to their home. Coincidentally, they saw Mi-ran's parents and his family discussing how to restore the heat, the normal level of the two people. Dong-chan told them about Professor Huang's situation. The two families, after negotiating the decision, during the day, the professor would stay at Dong-chan's barbecue restaurant, and at night he would sleep at Mi-ran home. The professor assigned to peel onions. He cried while peeling and was scolded by Dong-chan's mother. One day, President Lee went to Dong-chan's barbecue restaurant. He pretended to go into the store to eat. The professor accidentally saw him. Several discrete images appeared in the professor's mind. President Lee did not recognize Professor Huang. The professor quickly left. A moments later, Chairman Lee came to find his twin brother's wife. She intended to go to the television station to reveal his identity. Actually, Chairman Lee was Lee Hun-du, is the older brother who was hibernated, and also Lee Seok-du is the younger brother. Many years ago, Lee Hun-du had an accident and was put into hibernation, and Lee Seok-du took this opportunity to replace Lee Hun-du as president. To prevent Lee Hun-du from waking up, he sent people 3 times to kill Professor Huang. At the same time, Professor Huang relied on his memory. The memories flickered. He immediately went to the laboratory, opened the cabinet, and found a notebook recorded about restoring body temperature to hibernators. Then he saw Lee Hun-du in the freezer. Lost memories rushed back. This moment he finally regained his memory. Also knew that himself could be in danger. As expected, Lee Seok-du over there learned the news. At night, just as Professor Huang was preparing to go home, a man suddenly kidnapped him. Then he was caught by Lee Seok-du in a small dark room. His eyes were covered. Lee Hun-du told him to hand over the power source of the hibernation chamber in the laboratory to turn the hibernation experiment into a failed experiment. If he didn't do it, he would be killed. What about Dong-chan and Mi-ran? Professor Huang Huang was no other choice. He had no choice but to do it. He went to the laboratory and told Professor Yu, told him not to come here anymore. From today, he would take control of this laboratory. Professor Yu felt, seeing something unusual. After going out, he immediately called Dong Chan. At this time, Professor Huang was unplugging the power source of the hibernation compartment. Dong Chan arrived in time. He asked the professor why he was doing this. The professor said that if these hibernation chambers were not destroyed, turning them into failed experiments, they would all die. Dong Chan said, please save us. Let us be like normal people, to be live on. Since the last time Mi-ran kissed Dong Chan, their relationship quickly developed. The two of them started dating. After dating, of course, they will have to do meaningful things, but they can only kiss under the sun cold water, because the critical point of body temperature for people who have hibernated is 33 degrees. It will be very dangerous if you exceed it. Kissing is a hormone-enhanced sport that can only be done in cold water, and the gene that once hibernated is like a time bomb. The hibernator's life can be dangerous at any time. That day, Dong Chan was calling Mi-ran, suddenly felt dizzy and had difficulty breathing, but his body temperature did not increase. A moment later, Dong Chan collapsed to the ground. Mi-ran was on the other end of the phone, noticed something was wrong. She picked up her bag and quickly ran out. Professor Yu told Dong Chan that the hibernating human gene in his body had been changed. It had been detoxified, but still after 48 hours, it will flare up again. At this time, Mi-ran also ran over. She quickly asked Dong Chan if he was okay. Dong Chan was also afraid that Mi-ran's genes had changed. Suddenly, Dong Chan noticed bruises on her tracks, but Mi-ran herself did not know that there was a bruise on her hand. Professor Yu on the side said that this was not a bruise. Mi-ran also seemed to have begun to genetically mutate. Dong Chan asked the other person if any solution. Professor Yu said that only Professor Huang knows how, but now Professor Huang is missing. They go to the laboratory to look for clues. Here is a mess. Professor Yu feels that Professor Yu Huang was definitely taken away by Lee Seok-du. Fortunately, the two of them were prepared in advance. They contacted Lee Hyun-du's son in advance. Professor Huang was able to return safely. On the other hand, Professor Yu also researching the antidote day and night. He finally got results from Professor Huang's notebook after a night of research. But this is a newly researched drug. It cannot be guaranteed whether there will be any side effects. One of them needs to get an injection first. Mi-ran told Professor Yu to let herself try it first. The next day, Mi-ran got the injection before Dong Chan arrived. The professor told Dong Chan that Mi-ran had been injected for 2 hours. The antidote was successful. Dong Chan sadly told Mi-ran he should try this himself first. Both of them thought about the other. All want to bear all dangers first. Dong Chan also injected medicine. The two of them lay next to each other like that. Professor Yu told them that it was just an antidote. Medicine to restore normal body temperature had not yet been researched, so they still had to pay attention not to increase body temperature. On the other hand, Lee Seok-du, the fake president of Chaebon, was holding a high-level conference. At this moment, the real president, Lee Hyun-du, appeared. A drama of distinguishing between real and fake began. Both said that they were the real Lee Hyun-du. Everyone was confused. Finally, not knowing who to believe, Lee Hyun-du's son immediately stepped forward to identify. The person he was pushing was his father. At this time, a man stood up. He told the two people, when the former chairman handed over the position to Lee Hyun-du, had once told him one thing. Who could say that person was the real Lee Hyun-du? Lee Seok-du was scared. He actually didn't know what the chairman once said. Lee Hyun-du said the words that the former chairman once told him without missing a word. Then everyone realized who the real chairman was. At this time, the police also rushed in and arrested Lee Seok-du. Professor Huang were also rescued. This couple was in a cold room to cool down their body heat, but still felt hot. Suddenly, 2 ants walked in. Unable to stand the air conditioning inside, immediately went out. The two of them stayed inside for 2 hours before coming out. The moment Dong Chan's mother found out that her son was dating Mi-ran, she was worried that they were both hibernators and it would affect to the children later. Dong Chan's mother asked the two of them, isn't it because of marriage that they pretend to love each other? Dong Chan said, why suddenly she say about marriage? Mi-ran heard that and immediately replied, I'm only 24 years old. I have no intention of getting married. This series of words made everyone confused. Dong Chan's mother said that if you think like that, it's okay. You're not suitable for my son. Didn't expect Mi-ran to answer. I works very seriously, is not picky about food, and has a good personality. And he also has a lot of money. 70 billion. At the television station haven't taken it yet. If I explain your son's salary also comes from there. Mi-ran is not acting according to common sense, with just 2 sentences. Dong Chan's family can't say anything. In fact, she was just joking. In order to make Dong Chan's mother happy, she would agree to let the two of them be together. Dong Chan's mother also praised her as a very likable child, also smiling with satisfaction. The future mother-in-law just closed the deal like that. The scene changed. changed to Professor Huang also trying to research a medicine to restore body temperature. It's true that God does not disappoint. In the end, he succeeded in his research. He immediately called Dongchan to tell him the good news. Dongchan didn't tell Miran at all, because this time, he wanted to try the antidote himself first. Professor Huang told him his body temperature would return to normal within about a week after taking the medicine. After the injection, his body temperature gradually increased. There was also a feeling of pressure and difficulty breathing, but these symptoms were all necessary processes to restore body temperature. A while later, Professor Huang called Miran and told her Dongchan had been vaccinated. After taking the medicine first, Miran looked at Dongchan weakly, both heartbroken and sad. Immediately after Dongchan comforted her, they were able to live like normal people, so they were happy. 3 days after the heart attack and Dongchan's pain was gone, he and Miran went to the freezer room again. This time, it was completely different. Dongchan felt the cold while sitting in here. Miran asked him if he felt cold, because to not be discovered so. Dongchan lied to her and said he was just joking. One morning, a few days later, Dongchan woke up and saw that his body temperature had returned to normal. He was extremely happy and immediately called Miran to announce the good news. They were finally like normal people. But the plan changed quickly. One day before Miran was about to get the injection, at the event, there was a masked person with a knife walking in Dongchan's side. The knife stabbed Miran's waist. Dongchan rushed her to the hospital. Professor Huang also rushed over. The doctor told everyone Miran's condition is too serious and requires immediate surgery. Professor Huang said surgery is impossible because Miran is a hibernator. Her body temperature is only 31.5 degrees. Surgery can only be performed if her body temperature returns to normal, but it takes a week for her body temperature to recover, which Miran's current form cannot wait a week. The professor also said there is only one way now, which is to let Miran hibernate again, waiting until a drug can be developed that can restore body temperature. Miran and Dongchan's parents had no other choice. Miran could only enter hibernation mode again. While she was hibernating, Dongchan did not lose his spirit and tried his best every day working. He believes that one day Miran will wake up. He also often comes to see Miran in the freezer. The professors are also working hard to research a medicine that can quickly restore body temperature for sleeping people. Dongchan, in order to take care of Miran's family, he moved to Miran's house. During the process of meeting for many days, Miran's family considered Dongchan as their member. Everyone was waiting with hope. Miran wakes up. Suddenly 3 years have passed. Dongchan has become a famous producer. His temper is also very hot. The scene changes to Professor Huang finally researching a new drug. He quickly calls for Dongchan to tell him. Dongchan and Miran's parents came to the laboratory. Professor Huang told them that 30 minutes after the injection, to be able to restore body temperature, we have to have surgery right away. Now we have to see if Miran can survive the surgery or not. Don't know how much time has passed. Finally, the doctor came out to announce that the surgery was completed, but the patient was still in a coma. Not knowing when he would wake up, Dongchan spent every day in worry and insecurity. Finally, one day, Dongchan was out of town, received a call. The professor told him that Miran had woken up, waiting until he got to the hospital. Miran was sitting on the chair waiting for him. These 3 years of lovers finally met each other. This moment cannot be described in words. No long after we met Dongchan's family again. Dongchan's mother asked you if she had any plans to get married. I was only 24 years old. Why was the conversation so familiar? Miran once again replied that she did not want to get married and expressed that she wanted to study abroad. This made Dongchan worried. So what should he do? If she say that, what does she consider him to be? Even Dongchan is already 55 years old, even though he is actually only 35 years old. In front of Miran, he is really old. It is normal to worry. But Miran not only wants to study higher, but also wants to study for doctoral and master's degrees. In 5 years, he will be 60 years old. Although Dongchan is very angry, who said she is the person he wants to marry, he can only resign to following Miran around the world.
Make sure to subscribe for more movie recaps. Thanks for watching.